Instead of my usual attempt at a super exciting intro where I ask you to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, instead, how about I just tell you my lived experience discovering Embrace the Unknown. So, it's early September, just a short time before I've made the Discovering Robby Valentine documentary. At this time I was working at a farm feeds mill, mostly doing Monday to Saturday, working overtime pretty much all the time. My job then was a very physically and mentally demanding one, loading big trucks with farm feed by the ton. On top of that, I was suffering with my ADHD pretty bad, sleep was hard got and my mental health wasn't great either. I was overworked, underpaid and, as the locals would say, burnt out to fuck. Countless hours of my time spent running up and down flights of stairs, battering sticky bins and slides to feed a meal. I'd have to breathe through literal nebulas of chicken feed, beef nuts and pig meal and get coated in it like some sort of human-sized goujon in the process. At work I dealt with all sorts of personalities. Good, bad, ugly and bizarre, you name it, it all came through the door. All sorts of loud noises too, enough to make any neurodivergence brain explode. During the busiest of times it was a never-ending onslaught of trucks, abuse and zero thanks for our efforts. The pizza party was real, but it came in the form of a poxy breakfast bap with no egg. Christmas party for the boys had been denied yet again. The crash, boom and bang of it all was slowly killing my creative spark. In fact, it had gone out, and I couldn't think of what to do or who to write about next, and it had been like this for months. And I was getting worried because I had just been accepted into the YouTube partner program. I had finally found what I love to do in life and unlocked the ability to generate some income from my dream. Not a whole lot, but it wasn't nothing, and I didn't want to lose it. But I just didn't have the energy to go full throttle like my competition. All of these negative thoughts had started to enter my mind. The "you're a useless prick, you'll never be able to deliver, who cares what you think" kind. I still want to be great. I want to be who people look to when they think of the music that we love. But every time I went to write, I was snapped back to the reality of the next customer, the next loud noise, the next cunt pointlessly banging something with a hammer. My brain was scrambled, and yet time would pass in such a way that felt like autopilot. Wake up, go to work, end up in Lidl 2 days later stood in place with a packet of sausages in my hand, not having the slightest clue how, why or what I was even doing there, constantly asking the question, what's it all for? On and on it went. So one day I get home after another day just like this one. I crack open a beer, I go on YouTube and I start listening to AOR trying to unwind, trying to regain some semblance of self. I started listening to the usual, TNT, Michael Bolton, Strange Ways, that sort of thing, when suddenly I stumbled upon Robby Valentine, and in that moment it was as if I went from seeing things in black and white to suddenly seeing things in colour again. Love Takes Me Higher, over and over again, Where Do We Go From Here, Black Rain. After a few songs I was hooked. Like a man possessed, I started going down the rabbit hole, listening to every piece of music that I could find and watching every interview that was available to me, trying to get to know who this person was and where he had been my whole life. So many of his songs resonated with me on a personal level. His uniqueness and talent was like no other in the genre. Certain songs off the Magic Infinity album in particular had seemed to mirror my own lived experiences. Robby was passionate. He refused to change himself for the industry. When they tried to change his image, when they tried to manipulate his art, he told them all where to go. He was a true die-hard rocker like myself. Even though I didn't know Robby personally, I felt an instant kinship with him, and just like that, my spark had reignited into a flame. Throughout September, I worked like a madman. I hustled hard, taking advantage of any spare moment that I could. I wrote at home, I wrote on my phone, I logged into multiple computers at work and wrote in between customers on the sly. I was unstoppable. I tweaked, refined and organised my every word, trying to perfect what would be my new documentary. I categorised everything and in the process actually improved how I wrote my scripts. Throughout that whole month I lived and breathed Robby Valentine. I had tapped into my very own Magic Infinity, and by September 26th I had a new documentary uploaded and ready to go. In that video, I talked about his rise to fame, what I thought of his first 6 albums, and the struggles he faced as an AOR artist trying to navigate the musical climate of the 90s and early 2000s. For me, it was a wonderful journey of discovering one of the greatest artists I'd ever come across. Every album had something great to offer both visually and sonically. But Robby's career didn't just stop there. Throughout the 2000s, Robby released a bunch of interesting albums. Similar to the 90s, the 2000s and beyond brought with them their own set of challenges and new types of music to compete with. Emo, pop punk and power metal was now ruling the metal scene. Mainstream pop music had also evolved, and it was at the height of all of this that Robby made his return. Appropriately titled The Most Beautiful Pain, this album was released in 2006, smack bang in the very centre of all of these new metal genres. This album was made at what seemed like a very difficult time in Robby's life. The Most Beautiful Pain has some really good songs with some cleverly written lyrics on it, but for everything that this album got right, I feel that there is a lot more that it got wrong. I mean no disrespect, but I have to be honest. For me, this album falls short of the incredible music he's known for. The Most Beautiful Pain is his first attempt at being less of an AOR guy and more of a heavy hard rock guy, and I just don't feel like it struck the right balance of old and new. I also feel like it wasn't packaged correctly. Its front cover depicts Robby on top of a flying piano with wings through what looks like the crystal caves from the 70s Superman movies. Maybe the city and everything about it is meant to represent his depression and everything he can't deal with. Maybe the piano he's flying away on is the music that's saving him, which in theory is a cool concept, but the end result seems poorly executed. It looks more like a free CD-ROM you get in a Sunday newspaper. But I do appreciate that he was bold enough to lay all of his cards out on the table and be vulnerable. I admired that he took a risk and tried something different. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who absolutely adore this album and will disagree with me on this. That's fine, but for me it's the odd one out. However, I do feel like he got it right on the follow-up album, Falling Down Misanthropolis. Initially titled Who Killed Robby Valentine, Falling Down Misanthropolis is a part 2 to The Most Beautiful Pain. Some of the songs even share links with each other. Its packaging for a 2000s album is perfect. My favourite tracks on this one are Falling Down, Save Myself and April Fools. But the third and perhaps the most important album out of these three for me is Androgenious. Androgenious is a crazy mixed bag of an album. It has re-recorded old tracks slapped together with some new tracks. It has a re-recording of his hit ballad over and over again in the style of Marilyn Manson. The album is highly experimental. It's got hard rock songs. It's got some gothic industrial heavy metal type songs. For a Robby record, it's pretty unusual. But perhaps the most interesting thing about Androgenious is what it brought to the table. The most valuable member of the Valentine crew today, Robby's future wife, Maria Katerina, better known as Marlies. Behind every good man is an even better woman. Appearing on the second season of her country's version of the show Idol in 2004, Marlies fast made a name for herself as a formidable, talented frontwoman and would finish at a respectable 4th place on the show. 3 years later she teamed up with Robby Valentine to write songs for her album De-Electrified. Marlies would then appear in the music video for Save Myself in 2009, the song that appears on both Falling Down Misanthropolis and Androgenious. That same year she would form the group Anna Day, a group which Robby became a part of. Anna Day have a number of good albums worth checking out, but her most recent project to date, Magoria, is incredible. It's power metal at its finest with Marlies front and centre. It's well worth checking out. In my personal opinion, Marlies brought a new dimension to Robby's music with her high vocal abilities and put back something that seemed missing for Robby. The two would eventually become a couple and start a family. They have one daughter together. Marlies is the most important member of the Valentine crew, and without her, I don't think we would have the version of Robby that we do today. So go and check her out. I'll leave a link to her music in the description below. Special thanks to the Valentine fan club for providing me with all the information I needed about Marlies and Anna Day. The Most Beautiful Pain, Falling Down Misanthropolis and Androgenious are very much a moment in time for Robby. They feel like the product of experimentation, of a man battling with his mental health and trying to figure out where he's supposed to fit in with all that was going on in music at that time, while also trying to rediscover who he was and who he was meant to be going forward. For me, Bizarro World onward is where I consider the true starting gate to Robby's reinvention, as there is a noticeable improvement in his songwriting, album artwork and his overall look. This Robby Valentine is a different animal altogether than the one I thought I was familiar with. Released on October 25th, 2014, Bizarro World for me strikes the right balance of all of his talents and everything he has learned leading up to this point. It's an unbelievably beautiful album. Bizarro World is a crazy eclectic mix of classical piano, heavy metal, poppy Queen-like harmonies and strong lyrics. This 12-track masterpiece manages to do what the last 3 albums simply couldn't. Bizarro World proudly wears its influences on its sleeve and offers something truly unique yet familiar to its would-be listener. Its sister album, Bizarro World the piano versions, give the songs a new depth and replay value like no other. It's just a perfect album. And while there is songs on this album that resemble songs by other artists in the mainstream, such as the track You're Tearing Me Down sounding very close to Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River, I think it was the right move. Robbie has taken all the key elements of his influences at that time and made a record that is truly a modern reinvention of a sound that is palatable for both the fans of AOR and modern pop music. It's truly an incredible album. Bizarro World is the reinvention right here. My favourite tracks on Bizarro World are Bizarro World, You're Tearing Me Down, and the song that got the music video, Black Rain. Black Rain is for the people with rock and roll flowing through their veins. It's for the people that wear the image proudly because it's part and parcel of who they are. Black Rain is about the trials and tribulations people like us face for simply being who we are, and for that reason I love it. The music video is also really good. Something else that hit the nail on the head for me was the update to his image and branding. It just made sense. Gone are the muddy patterns and font of a forgotten decade. His new logo is now clean, crisp and to the point, with an emblem in the centre proudly displaying what I assume is his love for Christ. As for himself, he's now got an androgynous, elven, archangel look to his more recent appearance. He looks like he's transcended himself, like he's become an otherworldly being. His signature big platinum blonde hair with the black streak is now full length, smooth and sleek, as is his gazelle-like figure. His stage wear now adorns the more recent Valentine logo. His attire sort of resembles something like what Cloud from the Final Fantasy video game would wear. It's an all black attire with leather accessories, a corset, gauntlets and a shed load of belts. To bring the look together, Robbie leaned in hard with heavy eyeliner, makeup and black nails. Now this is more like it. He looks out of this world. He looks like what people in the 1980s thought people in the far distant future would look like. He looks exactly like his music sounds. He looks exactly what you'd want and expect a modern day Robby Valentine to look like. And after years of having to fight tooth and nail to be himself, I love that he didn't hold back in what he envisioned for himself. What you see in this era is exactly what you get. This truly is Robby Valentine. It's a great look and it's the look he's kept right up till present day. 4 years later, Robbie would follow up Bizarro World with the release of The Alliance. The Alliance is another incredible album that's just as good as Bizarro World. Just like Bizarro World, this album proudly wears its influences on its sleeve. It almost feels like a part 2. Both versions of this album are strikingly beautiful. The album is 10 tracks long and has some beautiful songs on it. My favourite tracks are Judgment Day, Black Dog, High as a Kite and Running on Empty. And of course, the beautiful ballad that he wrote for his daughter, Eleanor Robin. Black Dog in particular stood out to me. It's a very clever way of describing depression to someone who might not understand. Robbie's depression is a black dog that he's trying to get rid of. I throw a stick off a cliff, tie him to a tree, but it don't work. Chocolate bars in his food, shot to sleep for good, but it don't work. I get that. Live during this time, Robbie is just something else. There's a ton of live footage from both the Bizarro World and Alliance era on YouTube that just blew me away. I especially love the radio performances for the Countdown Cafe. While most of Robbie's contemporaries in AOR and glam metal, to put it nicely, aren't what they used to be, both Robbie's voice and musical ability have stayed intact. But not only that, but there has been a noticeable improvement and evolution to his artistry. In between The Alliance and Embrace the Unknown, Robbie released a bunch of other albums. He also released a bunch of Queen tribute albums as well. But Separate Worlds was the one that stuck out. It caught me off guard because the front cover simply doesn't do it justice. Separate Worlds is a classical album. It feels like I'm listening to a theatrical play more than an album, and it gets even better when I close my eyes. I believe that to fully experience the beauty and grace of this album, it simply must be given your full attention and listened to in one sitting. If you listen to it any other way, you deny yourself this joyful, almost Disney-like experience. So for this one, give it the time it deserves. Truly immerse yourself. So fast forward to October and I'm at the end of another soul-destroying shift. I go up to the canteen, I sit down and I check my Facebook only to find, to my surprise, a message from the one and only Robby Valentine. Oh my god, he had actually seen the video I made, and not only that, but he enjoyed it. I never expected that he would actually notice it, but he did. He had sat down and took time out of his day to listen to it and tried his best to watch in his limited vision. But not only that, but to write to me as well, which must have taken him some effort to do as he is partially blind. He surprisingly agreed with most of my criticisms and gave me valuable insight into his career and personal experiences trying to navigate the industry. He thanked me for the video. His words meant more to me than my own could express. I so desperately wanted to put my best foot forward and reply with a message that would show him just how much I appreciated his. But I'm sat there, and I'm covered in meal, and I'm barely able to talk, and now I'm starstruck. In hindsight, I probably should have waited till I got home, but I didn't want to leave him on read either, so I replied, but looking back at that message even now makes me cringe. I had so much more I wanted to say, but I just didn't have the energy to do so. I wanted to tell him that I thought he was great, that I seen so much of myself in him and that his music had touched my soul, that he was now my all-time favourite musician, but most of all, I wanted to let him know that I was extremely grateful he reached out, and I don't think I did that, at least not in the way that I should have. And I felt like such a prick, but I was just so exhausted. I also wanted to follow up the video immediately with another, and I tried. Oh boy did I try, but I was just too burnt out. This job was killing me. Leaving my job had been on the table for me for some time now. At the start of the year, my girlfriend had given me the option to leave the country and start a new life in a place where I had the potential to really build the life we both wanted. But despite how demanding my job was, I really loved the people I work with and the town that I lived in. Over the years, I had fought so hard to stay there and earn the respect of the people around me, and to a point I did. I had in fact earned my spot. I also made lifelong friends with people I otherwise wouldn't have gelled with, but the cost of living was getting to be too much, and even with the amount of hours I was working, the dream of owning a car and saving for a mortgage had slipped hilariously out of my reach, and at 35 years old, I wasn't getting any younger. But despite this, I was still hesitant. For months we'd been planning to go, putting things in motion, but in my head I was still going back and forth. Do I stay? Do I go? I needed a sign. Really, I needed a swift kick up the arse to guide me in the right direction. I spent days up the road at the local church looking for spiritual guidance, but nothing came clear to me. Until one day it did. The universe has a strange way of guiding you if you let it. While making my first Robby doc, he had announced his new album and it was titled Embrace the Unknown. 3 words that meant one thing to him but seemed like the universe delivering a message for me. How is it that I find an artist that resonates with me and his new album is titled something like that? Embrace the Unknown. It became as clear as day what I had to do. There was no turning back. I had been shipping boxes for the last couple of months. My apartment was slowly morphing back into the shell it was when I first moved in. I didn't have many things, but definitely had more than I thought. Moving home is one thing, but moving country and saying goodbye to everything that I knew to take a chance in a foreign land was a real leap for me. In a desperate attempt to get my affairs in order, I pretty much lived at work, taking as much overtime as I could, going in earlier and staying longer. I had bills to clear. It was a grind to the finish, but before I knew it, I was on my final week and I was saying goodbye to Ireland. Off I went with my girlfriend and my cat. It was a flight to Paris, a car journey to Orleans, and then onward to Toulouse. I had really done it. I had left everything behind. When I arrived at my new home, I was surprised that there was gifts waiting for me. Thanks to my girlfriend, I had gifts from the one and only Robby Valentine. A signed copy of Embrace the Unknown, a poster wishing me happy birthday and yet another thank you for the documentary, along with a patch and a few other things like a 1995 Valentine badge. Again, this all meant so much to me, more than my words could express. My new home was a sanctuary for rock and roll. I was surrounded by a vast collection of music and a surround sound speaker system. Now was the perfect time to truly absorb this new album. The next day I went to the living room, I put the CD on, I sat down, I closed my eyes, and I truly immersed myself in the album Embrace the Unknown. Embrace the Unknown was released on the 21st of October 2023, and a few weeks after that it was uploaded to Spotify and other streaming services. And it was available to me, but because I was so busy I just couldn't give it the time it deserved. That was until this moment. This very moment. In this very moment I was able to take the time and truly absorb everything. And the conclusion I've come to is that Embrace the Unknown is probably Robby's finest work to date. I feel like it mixes his modern sound with his old. Embrace the Unknown is 10 tracks of perfection, perfectly packaged with the artwork that the songs truly deserve. I absolutely love the front cover. It's beautiful and it stands out. Embrace the Unknown feels like a return to the world and lore of the Valentine 1995 album. Songs like Life is a Lesson and Embrace the Unknown sound similar to songs like Eyes in the Mirror and Ma Cherie. They feel like the other side of the same coin. Even the covers feel like they are from the same realm. The 95 Valentine covers got that full moonlit night with Robbie standing on top of a piano in the clouds displaying his name, and Embrace the Unknown's got something similar, but the idea is executed in a more mature way. But this album looks more like the dawn of maybe a new chapter in Robbie's life. I can only theorise as to why he may have returned to this place in his mind. Maybe in his moments of vulnerability, he began searching for the passion and the faith he had in God that he so proudly sang about in the Where Do We Go From Here era. Who knows? All I know is that this album is fantastic. My favourite tracks off Embrace the Unknown are Break the Chains, Never Fall in Line, Roll Up Your Sleeves and Embrace the Unknown. In an era of cancel culture and the pressures to support the current thing, Robbie went against the grain and stood for what he believed in, and done so in the most spectacularly theatrical way that only Robbie could. But obviously the absolute powerhouse on this album is Embrace the Unknown. As I mentioned, Embrace the Unknown feels like it belongs from the same realm as the Valentine album from 1995, in particular the song Ma Cherie. The piano in the clouds, the angels that whisper in Robbie's ear, the musicality of it all sounds like familiar territory. There are a lot of elements that are very similar about this song and video, but the tonality of Embrace the Unknown takes us down a more darker and serious road, a sad and kind of frightening road. Robbie has painted us the very scary picture of what it has been like to lose his vision, along with the pain, the guilt and the sorrow that he is feeling. Everything is laid bare for us to see. Everything he once knew is slowly fading, burning away. They think I got it covered, but inside I go insane. My head's a prison and my best friend is a cane. This video is full of Easter eggs from his past. We see the street from the Over and Over Again music video and various photos of precious memories all fading and burning away. Both the song and the video are a stunning visual and auditory masterpiece that grabs you by the heartstrings and shakes you to your core. This truly is, dare I say it, the most beautiful pain I have ever witnessed, and I would argue that to truly experience Embrace the Unknown, you simply must watch the video. You cannot have one without the other. It's a hard watch, but it moved me in a way that I don't think any artist has ever done ever. The scenes are powerful, gripping, and so very emotional, such to the point that I was fighting off tears. I felt everything. I cried like a baby. And although it is sad, it is an experience like no other. It's the perfect example of life imitating art. It is a man daring to face his fears. Instead of running, he's embracing this gift of lessons to learn. The video sees Robbie go through hell and ends with the scene that resembles the 1995 Valentine album cover. This has to be his version of heaven, right? Just like everyone else watching this video, I wanted to do something. I felt compelled to help in some way, but this is something Robbie must face alone. He must, as the title suggests, embrace the unknown. For me, it is the song and music video of 2024. It is the best music video of the decade, of the century even, hands down. Robbie would eventually follow this up with a light-hearted music video for Don't Give Up on a Miracle. Don't Give Up on a Miracle tells the story of Big Chuck, a farmer who leaves his whole life behind to pursue his passion, music. It's a great video and I couldn't help but see some similarities between Chuck and my own lived experiences. Embrace the Unknown seen Robbie re-enter the spotlight, doing all sorts of press, various TV appearances and interviews, and I tuned in to what was available to me. I especially loved the variety act show Nordwin Live. Whatever this show is, I wish France and Ireland would adapt it because it's so bizarrely entertaining. It's so random. Robbie was slap bang in the middle of very random, very unusual musical acts, but he did great. I really enjoyed his performance. Another great video is the radio performance of Embrace the Unknown, but the clear winner is the live version of the Overture. But out of all of these videos, one in particular stood out for me, titled MiniDocumentary Robby Valentine. A new interview. Brilliant, I thought. It's in Dutch, but thank God for technology. My naive self thought that this was going to be a somewhat in-depth look into Robbie and his creative process with some fun facts about the new album, but this mini-docu was nothing like that. I found myself oddly stunned yet entertained by the whole scenario. It felt a bit bizarre. The video opens with this guy walking down the street who I assume is of some relevance in Holland. He gives us an intro with an impromptu knock at Robby's door, along with a brief, poorly worded recap of Robby's career. We then enter Robby's home where we see Robby cooking broccoli, and it's a bit uncomfortable as he has clearly been caught off guard, which tells me that this interviewer, whoever he is, clearly didn't arrive at the agreed upon time, and Robby got hungry, I guess. While it's fascinating to see the inside of any musician's home, we sadly don't get to see Robby's studio or talk about his process of music making. Instead, the video plays out like a day in the life. We see Robby cook broccoli, autograph his fan mail, and go about his errands. And this is where it gets a bit weird. First of all, he says, "Will I let him close the door? Will I let him close his own front door?" The interviewer then proceeds to ask Robby a very uncomfortable question while he's out in public. If this translation is correct, this guy basically says, "You're quite a striking looking steal. Do you ever get abused for how you look around here?" First of all, why is that even relevant? And how does asking this question in this particular moment benefit either party? While it's true that Robby has been attacked in the past for his image, the right place and the right time seems completely lost on this guy. This interviewer then starts quizzing the local shopkeeper. Do you know who Robby is, do you?" Out of the laundry list of good questions one could ask a star like Robby, like, what inspired you to create Embrace the Unknown? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while making it? How have you managed to maintain such a loyal and dedicated fan base? I see you recently got signed to a new label. Tell us a bit about that. Anything at all would have been better than this cringe. Just stupid questions from a guy with no point of reference. The interviewer seems utterly clueless on how he should be conducting himself, which I suppose is the point, but I suppose if I had the opportunity to interview Robby, you best believe I'd be showing up at the right time, asking the right questions and not mortifying him and his local newsagents. But for all its faults, the video does make up for itself by providing a fantastic insight into the preparation one must do for a successful Robby gig and what goes into helping Robby safely navigate his environment. There is also a very touching moment of Robby's daughter explaining her feelings about Robby and his illness. Happy that her dad is always around is something that she values. It was nice to see. I think the superior interview is the one he did for RTV. It's only 1 minute long, but it's just better. And it provides more of an insight to his recent album, which is what I want to see. So I would go with that. As the months have passed for me in this foreign land trying to figure out my next move, I have found solace and strength in the vast catalogue of Robby's music. He is now my all-time favourite artist. I am sure all fans of Robby have their favourite album. Mine are the Magic Infinity, Valentine, and this new album, Embrace the Unknown. Robby has a dedicated fan following that to this day continues to grow, and I am proud to be a part of that community. Despite all of his setbacks in his health and career, Robby still manages to defy the odds time and time again, consistently delivering us music that feels unbelievably special to its would-be listener. Robby brings colour and excitement to an otherwise bland and boring music scene. He brings a level of quality and talent artists of today only hope to match. He is the Mozart of our time, and I hope that one day he gets the exposure he truly deserves. Robby deserves to be more than just a big in Japan rock star, and has far more to offer than his ballad Over and Over Again. And it is my hope that after you watch this video, that you go and discover Robby for yourself. As for me, I can only hope to have the courage and grace Robby has shown in what I have to do moving forward, and I think that's where I'm going to leave this one. Thank you, Robby Valentine, for continuing to be your authentic self. I wish you, your band, and your family all the best in your future endeavours. This has truly been Discovering Robby Valentine by Richie Kearns Productions. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.